Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Live from New York, it's me. I'm back, folks. I hope you guys had a great holiday. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope you spent it with some friends, some family. You ate, you relaxed, you watched football, you do whatever it is you enjoy on such a great holiday. My favorite holiday of the year, Thanksgiving. You can't beat it. But we're back. I'm rested up and I'm ready to go. Full of coffee, full of the desire to help you guys out and go over the wonderful world of workers' compensation. So today we're going to do a Q&A. I know you guys love the Q&A. Post your questions here. It's a free-for-all. I got some slides prepared with some great questions that were asked in some of the comments on other videos, and I'm going to go over those things. But as always, folks, post your questions here, and I'm going to do everything I can to answer everybody's questions to make you to let you get a better understanding of your case and what you should be expecting. And how things are going to go for you. So we're going to dive right in. And I hope, we were talking about this a few moments ago in the office. I hope Miss B is okay, and I hope she's here, or that everything is okay. She's a longtime supporter, and we haven't seen her in the last few weeks. So I want to make sure that she is okay, and I want to make sure that you're all okay. With that, let's jump right into the first slide. I did post just before I get started here in the chat on the side there. You're going to see a link. I hope the link actually works and takes you where you need to go. We're going to discuss this this bill that we're going to do. We've brought it up in the past, but we're going to discuss this bill and what that link is going to take you to. I strongly urge anybody and everybody who has concern about this stuff to take a look. Just take a look, and if it's something that you agree with, you can fill out the information. And what it does is it sends a letter to the governor urging the governor to take action to help the injured workers of New York. But we'll get there in a moment. Question number one, great question. What can I do if the insurance company denies treatment requested by my doctor? This is a common question. We get this question every single day. Oh, my doctor wants to do physical therapy and it's denied. My doctor wants to do an injection in my back or my knee or whatever, and it's denied. My doctor wants whatever the doctor's asking for, and it's denied. What do I do if treatment requests are get denied? Well, the first thing that we need to do here in New York, workers' compensation is very rule driven. Everything has to be done by the book, by the law, by the letter of the law. And when it comes to treatment, medical treatment, there are medical treatment guidelines. There's a book, there's a guideline. I mean, we don't use the book anymore because it's online, but there is a guideline which essentially tells the doctors how to treat your particular injury. And the doctor should follow that guideline. And if he follows that guideline and the treatment that he's requesting at that point in time in the timeline of the guideline, line, if he reaches that point in time and the treatment that he wants to give you is in accordance with the guidelines, he doesn't need authorization. So and again, I'm not a doctor here, so I'm just going to be speaking very broadly and generically about this. But let's just say you have you injured your low back, and it says, oh, you have a low back lumbar spine sprain, strain. First, you do physical therapy, and then if you have 10 visits of physical therapy and there's still symptoms, then potentially you go for an MRI. And if there's still symptoms and radiculopathy is when you have shooting pain down the extremities or shooting pain anywhere. Referencing pain could also be other symptoms like numbness and tingling. Then you maybe get an EMG test. Well, if your doctor is at that third step, and I don't know that it is the third step, I'm just giving you an example. If he's at that third step and he wants to do an EMG, well, he shouldn't need authorization if the guidelines are allowing for it. So the first thing that you want to ask the doctor, and a lot of these questions, we bounce back to the doctor because this is their area of expertise. Are you at that point in time where you potentially don't need authorization? If you don't need authorization, go ahead and do what it is you want to do because you're at that stage and you can go ahead and do that. But if it's not at that stage or your doctor is seeking to vary from the guidelines, then he has to request specific authorization. Maybe you, with that same low back injury, you had your 10 visits of physical therapy that are allowed for in the guidelines, but the doctor's noticing that by visit 8 and 9, you're doing a lot better. And visit 10, you did great. And you're still not there yet, but you're making great progress. Maybe he wants to give you another 5 visits. Maybe he wants to give you another 10 visits. Well, that varies from the guidelines, but he can request authorization for additional physical therapy, which potentially could and should being questionable, authorized if it's helping you. And the doctor fills out the forms and it's submitted through, we've called it, we've told you guys it's the PAR system, prior authorization request. It's through the medical portal. There are specific ways that the doctor has to go and request authorization for these things. But if the doctor puts in those requests and he crosses his T's and dots his I's and puts all the information in there and clearly explains that you've been making functional, objective improvements, and you're getting better, and additional treatment is expected to help you further, then there's a very good chance it's going to get authorized. And if the insurance company denies it, they have to give them a reason why they're denying it. It exceeds the guidelines. You got 10 visits. Well, the doctor can go back and say, yes, you're correct, but I'm showing you that there were objective improvements that were made, and I'm expecting more improvements. This is going to help this person get better. Well, then the doctor can put in for a reconsideration. We call it a level 2 reconsideration. And after a level 2 denial, you can then ask the medical director's office at the compensation board for a level 3 reconsideration. At that point, you can ask for hearings and depositions and things like that. So there are a lot of things that can be done there. You're not just locked into a denial once a denial is received from the insurance company. And a lot of people do think that that's what happens. Oh, I was denied, got to go. Very thirsty today. We do a lot of things in the workers' compensation system scare people off, and this is one of them, especially unrepresented injured workers. And this is why it's important to have a lawyer. And I'm not saying you got to come see me, but it'd be nice if you did. But there's a lot of great lawyers out there. And this is one of those things that scare people off. If you're not represented and your doctor says, oh, I'm requesting additional physical therapy, you're so close, you're getting better, and I think you're going to be back to work soon, we just need 5 more visits of physical therapy, and the insurance company denies it, they say, well, it's denied. I guess that's it. Nothing else to do. See you later, doctor. Case closed. Yeah. Another similar thing that the board does that I'm always, I have a bit of a hard time, it's called the no further action. For an unrepresented employee worker, you could get a proposed decision or an administrative decision, a decision from a judge that's made outside of a hearing. So you weren't there, nobody was there, and the judge just made this decision. The board makes these decisions, and they file them. And it says, oh, so-and-so injured his low back on April 1st. Okay, yeah, that's right. And he was earning $650 a week. Yeah, that's about what I earned. And he was out of work for 6 weeks. Yeah, I was out of work for 6 weeks. And no further action. And then the person who's not represented gets that decision. They say, well, looks correct. No further action. I guess there's no further action. I guess my case is closed and nothing else to be done here. And that's not true. There's a lot of things that can be done depending on your injury, depending on what your future holds. So having an attorney who understands the system and how to interpret these things is super important. I want to make sure that you guys understand that. If you do want to call me, 212-406-8989. Who do we have here? Hold on, let me move that out of the way. I got hurt at work 9 years ago. Geez, I had back fusion surgery and hernia surgery a year and a half ago. Now they offered me $100K to settle. I haven't gotten anything this whole time. Any suggestions? Spaz Chackwell, my friend, I have a lot of questions before I could come anywhere near an answer to that question. Where did you get hurt? What state is your case being heard? And how long did you continue to work after the accident? I would presume that you probably did for a good amount of time if they didn't give you any lost time benefits for 9 years. But I don't know your case. And I don't know what you were earning, and I don't know what your lost time, reduced earnings, and all those answers would be. 100K could be next to nothing, and 100K could be a home run. So it could go any which way. I would need a lot more information to answer that question. Do you have a lawyer? If you do, call your lawyer and ask him those questions. If you don't, call me and ask me those questions. Jason J, I'm doing exposure therapy with a support worker once every week for 40 minutes every week for 2 months now. Is this a trap? Do they have grants that cut me off from disability? What do you mean by exposure therapy? I don't know what that means. Yeah, it might just be a name that I'm not familiar with. I might know a different name for that. And as I said before, folks, check out this link that I posted in the chat. I went in there at 3:33. Take a look at that when you have a chance. We're going to talk about it in a minute. All right. Where'd you go? This was another good one. If the IME doctor says you've reached MMI, but your doctor says you haven't, what's going to happen? A lot of different things. A lot of different things can happen here. Generally speaking, when the insurance company doctor says you've reached MMI, if you are receiving weekly awards for lost time, the insurance company is going to try to rush that thing and get a hearing, get in front of a judge, because they're going to try to stop the bleeding, and limit how much money they're going to have to pay you over time. And if there's running awards, that's the time for them to do it. Here in New York, a lot of times if the insurance company's IME says you're at maximum medical improvement, they don't even have to get a hearing anymore, because when they send that report into the board and they send a request for further action and the board sees it, they file a document. We call it the 81.7. EC 81.7 is just the name of the document. It's a letter. The board files a letter and they say, "Dear client, dear injured worker, dear injured worker's lawyer, we are God. We are in receipt of an IME from Dr. So-and-so filed by the insurance company that says you have reached MMI and this is your level of permanent disability. You have a few options here. Go get your own opinion, cross-examine their doctor, so on and so forth." And the board will do the same thing in reverse. If we file a C4.3, a permanency report, if you file a report from your doctor showing that you have a permanent injury, the board will usually file the same form, the 81.7 form, and they'll tell the insurance company, "Hey, insurance company, we received this form. The claimant's doctor thinks they've reached maximum medical improvement. Here are their opinions on permanency and loss of use and all the different good things there. You have some options here. You can accept what their doctor says. You can get your own doctor's opinion and get an IME. You can cross-examine their doctor if you choose not to accept or get your own opinion. You can cross-examine their doctor and question his findings. Or number four, if you don't want to do any of the other three things, you can file a memo of law showing why what it is you want should be what you get." And that's a very rare one. But generally speaking, to answer your question, if the IME doctor says you reach MMI, the quick and easy answer to that question is, if your doctor hasn't already given an opinion on MMI, you probably should start working on that pretty soon, because you're going to be directed to do it pretty soon, and you want to get ahead of the game here. You don't want to get time limited by anything because you didn't get it done in time. So if if their doctor says you're at MMI, you take that report, that IME report, you go see your doctor, who should have gotten that report because they're supposed to send it to your doctor. You say, "Hey, doc, let's make an appointment. I want to sit down and talk to you. Let's do a permanency evaluation, whether it's schedule loss or for a neck or a back. But here's what their doctor says, and I think we have to produce our own report. So let's go for it." That's usually what's going to happen. And your case is in that kind of that closing leg, the final stretch, before permanency is reached. And it's usually a good time to start talking settlement, depending on certain factors. But usually, when you're getting into this phase, it's a good settlement time. Great question. This is a very common question. The second opinion, we had a chat with somebody this morning all about this. "My doctor is recommending surgery. Am I allowed to get a second opinion?" Yes. Would workers' compensation cover that visit too? Yes. You're allowed to get second opinions. And sometimes, if I'll have this discussion with clients over the phone or in the office when they come see me or at various points in time, and I'll tell them yes. But a lot of times these questions come up at hearings, and there'll be a question of surgery. And some judges, it's not such a formalized experience. Some judges are compassionate, and they'll say, "Sir, your doctor's recommending surgery. Do you want to have surgery?" And sometimes people say, "I'm afraid of surgery." Why? Because you should be afraid of surgery, because some guy's cutting you open and doing things. Yeah, it's a scary proposition. And sometimes a judge will say, "Do you want a second opinion?" Second opinion authorized. It doesn't need specific authorization, but just to show that it's permitted, go and get your second opinion. There's nothing wrong with getting a second. Don't abuse it. Don't overdo it. But if you are considering surgery versus not having surgery, go get a second opinion. There's nothing wrong with it. You are allowed to do it. The insurance company should pay the bill. And if they give you a hard time, you tell them that I'm going to get pissed at them and make sure you get paid. You're allowed to get a second opinion. Sean Donnelly joined. Sean Donnelly is a great guy, helps us with getting the medical. He helps find us specify doctors with specialties. So he's good at finding any doctor that we need. And this is part of the network that we work within. If you need a back, a spinal surgeon, or an orthopedic surgeon, a neurologist, those doctors are, I don't want to say plentiful, but there are more of them. But he also helps find us those specialties, ear, nose, and throat doctors and things like that, podiatry. Sean's a great guy. They also do the medical device sales and stuff like that. And I was just talking to Sean last night at one of the Christmas parties. Fantastic guy, and he helps our clients with the medical treatment that they need. And I'm happy to see that he's on. Played pro ball for a while. So, second opinions authorized. I wonder if Tatted J has tattoos, but I want to know, how do you prove your back injury is work-related when it's from years of lifting heavy items rather than an accident? And we've talked about this. Was it the last one or two videos ago? This is that OD case. This is that repetitive stress case, okay? I always make the analogy to carpal tunnel syndrome. If you're a person who sits there and types, because that's all everyone does all day now, is they usually type on their phone. But when you're typing on a computer all day, you could develop carpal tunnel syndrome. And it doesn't mean that you had an accident. You didn't have a specific accident. You have an occupational disability of a repetitive stress claim. And repetitive stress claims can also be lifting and hurting your back, hurting your knees. What's the carpet kicker's knee is one of them, where they use that stupid kicker thing all day to install carpet, and they develop a knee problem. If your job requires you to lift heavy items all day and over time your back has deteriorated, you could have a repetitive stress claim. There are still statutes and limitations that you need to be mindful of. You have 2 years from the date that you first knew or should have known that your back injury is work-related. And that's usually the day that you first start seeing a doctor for those injuries. And you say, hey, doc, I lift cinder blocks all day at work, and after 5 years of doing this, my back is effing killing me. Yeah, that's usually the day that the statute starts running, which means you have to file your claim within 2 years. You still have 30 days to give notice to your supervisor or your employer that you had a work-related injury. So time is very important with these repetitive stress cases, because it's a 2-year statute and you're talking about years of heavy lifting. Well, the argument comes in as to when you should have known your injury is work-related. If you lift boulders all day, well, you probably should have known pretty early on that the nagging pain in your back was boulder related, as opposed to something else. But very possible. We handle them all the time. But because there's no distinct accident, because there's no falling down the stairs, because there's no box that fell off a shelf and knocked you in the head, because there's no hit by the car crossing the street, it's harder to prove. And there's more ambiguity there. So insurance companies are more likely to controvert those cases. So you got to get that evidence put together. You got to have good, solid evidence, a good, solid case with a good, solid lawyer and good, solid medical. So that's why you call me, you get a good doctor on it. So your cases, we could set it up for success. 99% of these cases are controverted cases, where you're going to go to trial and they're going to question the hell out of you as to, when did your back first start hurting? What do you do when you're not working? Do you play soccer? Do you play basketball? Do you do any other thing? Have you ever hurt your back in the past? Did you have any car accidents? Have you ever filed a lawsuit? Have you ever had a prior workers' compensation case? All those questions are going to come up, and they're going to hammer you to make sure that your back injury is not related to anything other than that work, that repetitive stress at work. I still don't see Ms. B here. I'm very, very concerned. We're all very concerned. Jennifer Marquez wants to know, if you're waiting for knee surgery and you fall and hurt your ankle because of your crutches, is that injury also covered by comp? So I'm not going to say yes, but I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say yes because I don't want to give the absolute there. But what you're describing here is what we've discussed this before, what we know as a consequential injury. If you are waiting for knee surgery and you are on crutches and you're hobbling around and your crutch gets caught in a crack on the sidewalk and you fall down and you hurt your ankle because of that, you can claim a consequential injury. If the crutches get caught on the carpet and you fall down, consequential injury. The one example I've given in the past, if you have a broken leg and you have a cast on your foot and you're taking a shower and you got to hang your leg out of the shower so the cast doesn't get wet, even though you wrapped plastic bags and saran wrap over it and you look like an idiot, standing on one foot in the shower and you slip and fall and you break your arm, consequential injury. Is it certain? No, nothing's certain. But there's your claim. Yes, you can pursue it, and I love those cases because they're fun. It's fun to show the relationship there, to add onto that case, to get you more, despite the fact that you hurt. And we're very sorry to hear that happened. But yes, to answer your question, consequential injury. Consequential injury. Remember that term. Great question. Great question. David, can I ask you for a settlement? Can you ask for a settlement at any time during the process? Yes. It's not advisable. There's certain times where you might not want to do it. And I can't say what those times are because every case is different. And it really, it's fact specific. It's depending on a lot of different things. But yes, you can ask for a settlement at any point in time. And we've settled cases at the most awkward of times for whatever reasons they were. Sometimes people just say, I had enough of this. I'm moving back to Botswana. Get me as much money as you can get me. I want to get the hell out of here and be done with this case and be done with New York. And I want to go, and that's fine. And there are other times where a person's scheduled for surgery and they say, I'm not getting surgery. Settle this case right now. Let's get done. And we do the best we can to settle your case. We've had insurance companies approach us leading up to the trial phase. We're controverting the hell out of this case. Your client is not going to win. We're going to beat the heck out of you. And I sit and I laugh at them and they say, but do you want to settle? I thought you were so confident you were going to kick my butt in court. You're offering me money? Well, sometimes for certain people, they'll rather take it than go through the hell of a trial, even though that's what I enjoy doing. They deprive me of my joys. But a case can settle at any point in time during the process. Yes. It's more contingent on who the players are, because not every carrier will settle. Not every carrier will settle at a certain time. But generally speaking, the answer to your question, David, is yes. So this question is going to go to what we're talking about at the end. If I was granted SSDI, Social Security Disability, do I still have to do a work search? If a work search was directed, or even if a work search is anticipated, and when would a work search be anticipated? If the judge has found that you have a partial disability, or your doctors are finding you have a partial disability, expect to be hit with the obligation to look for work within those restrictions. So even if the judge hasn't specifically ordered it, if he's found, I've reviewed the minutes, I reviewed the deposition transcripts and yada, 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 and I believe this person has a partial disability, expect it. And sometimes it's unfortunate that it might not make it into the decision because the judge just forgot or the insurance company forgot to raise it. But it's that black cloud is looming and you should start doing a work search. And here's the problem with that. Work search comes in when the judge finds a partial disability. If you're getting Social Security disability, you're totally disabled. So there's an incompatibility there, which creates a problem. And you don't want to jeopardize your Social Security disability benefits by doing a work search and finding a job that could presumably be within your restrictions. Even if you try and you can't do it, it creates a problem. As of now, the answer to your question is yes. If a work search has been required, regardless of your Social Security disability status, you do have to do it. And it sucks, but you have to. But it sucks, but you have to. So yes, the answer to that question is yes, but keep that in the back of your mind because we're going to talk about this a little more. Whew. And check out that link because it goes to this, and we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna get into this. I should have put that one last. I was injured working as a corrections officer and had to take a lower paying job due to partial permanent disability. Can I be compensated for loss of earnings? Yes. So I'm assuming this is a New York State case, and you were injured and you were classified with a permanent partial disability, and you returned to a lower paying job because that's the most you can do. That's the most you can earn with your injuries. You are entitled to reduced earnings. You might be, again, no absolutes here. You are potentially entitled to reduced earnings benefits, and reduced earnings benefits can be 2/3 of the difference between your pre-accident and your post-accident salaries up to the statutory maximum. So it depends on when you were hurt and how much you were earning. But you could potentially get up to 2/3 of the difference between salaries here in New York State. Something you should absolutely talk to your lawyer about. Make sure you keep all your pay stubs since you've gone back to work so that your lawyer can do the math. That's one of my joys at 11 o'clock at night when it's nice and quiet and I can get on the computer, put a hockey game on in the background, and figure out people's reduced earnings. That's what I do because I'm a loser, but I like doing it. So yes, keep all your pay stubs, get them to your lawyer, let them figure out what your reduced earnings are so you can get those benefits. Don't get nothing, get something. I love reduced earnings. Does average weekly wage include holiday bonuses? Yes. Are you paid it? Yeah. Yes, it includes holiday bonuses. It includes vacations. It includes you earn that money, you get it. And, a lot of times the insurance company, vacation pay, for instance, they are required to produce a document showing your earnings for the year leading up to an accident. And it'll show weeks worked and the amount earned for those weeks. And all of a sudden you'll see 2 weeks of pay there with 0 days worked. And you go, well, what's all that about? And they say, well, no, that's worked. And they will add those weeks in and use that and divide, bring your average weekly wage down. And we say, no, not so fast, my friend. And we ask, what are those 2 weeks? Those are the 2 weeks I was in Florida. Beautiful. Well, you don't get to deduct those 2 weeks. So instead of deducting $52,000 for the year by 52 weeks, giving you $1,000 a week, we divide $52,000 for the year by 50 weeks, giving you $1,040. So it's $40 more, of which you only get 2/3. But hey, that's real money, my friends. And it puts more money in your pocket. And that's what we're here to do. Where'd my notes go? Okay, so slide 10, this is the one we're talking about. Because Keenan here is speaking real truths. Workers' compensation laws need to be revised. Workers' compensation laws need to be revised. And guess what? They're in a constant state of revision. It's an antiquated system. When I think of the workers' compensation laws and how they've developed over the years, the image that pops in my brain is the New York City subway system. It is an ancient system. The subway system here in New York is the oldest in the country. It is ancient. They still use the old switches and lights, and it's not computerized. It's not computerized, the subway system. It's not computerized. It's literally people watching a board with flashing lights and switching. It's that antiquated, and they're slow. Even though they might have some advertisements on the platform that are all glitzy and LED light, the system itself. But whatever. I digress. They're always making changes and trying to upgrade, but it's really an old system that's patched together, and they put in band-aids on boo-boos just to keep the system going. And the workers' compensation law is very, very similar. Yeah. And there's changes that are constantly being made. Listen, right now, if you have a 50% loss of wage earning capacity, a 50% permanent partial disability, you get 50% of your compensation awards for 300 weeks. And that's it. After 300 weeks, 5.29 years, is it? 5.77 years. After 5 3/4 years, you don't get anything else. So if you're a 32-year-old guy or girl, and you have a 50% is half of you, permanent disability, you're going to get benefits that are going to stop before you turn 40 years old. What the F are you supposed to do with yourself after that? You're 50% disabled. Before the changes in the law, you got a 50% rate of compensation for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life. Before the changes in the law, the revisions are going the wrong direction. This is what these examples are used to show you. If you were found to have a 50% permanent partial disability by your doctor, before the judge found that disability, you didn't have to do a work search. Now you have to go do a work search just to get that 50% that you're only going to get for 5 years. It's lunacy. But I am just a spoke in the wheel. I'm a cog in the machine. I can only do so much because I am no more a human being than any one of you. But what do we do about that? Well, we have legislators. We have politicians. We have rule makers. And we have people who can make those changes. We can push to make those changes and hope that they make those changes for us. So one of the things that, and it's because I saw this comment while I was preparing the slides that I wanted to highlight. Here we have a chance to change one of the workers' compensation laws in New York. And these are efforts to pass what's known as the Social Security Disability Total Presumption Bill. Total Presumption Bill. The bill would help injured workers who have already been approved for Social Security disability. They would not have to prove their disability a second time in their workers' compensation case. They would automatically be considered to have a total disability, a permanent total disability. The board has to honor and respect and adhere to the findings of the Social Security Administration, which is, if you think about it, is crazy. The Social Security Administration is the federal government. And the state is basically saying, we don't have to follow your rules. We have our own rules. Crazy. This bill also expands the definition of a permanent total disability to include people who can no longer do the full range of sedentary work and those who receive Social Security disability benefits for a workplace injury. So we're broadening what it is to be a permanent total, and we're including those Social Security recipients. If you want to support this bill and you want to help out, listen, I'm just trying to help people. That's really what it comes down to. If you want to support this bill, the New York Workers' Compensation Alliance, which I am a member, has created a tool. They made it easy for you that lets you send a letter to the governor asking her to pass this. And we've done this in the past. Back when things were less computerized, we had a postcard system where we would have a stack of postcards and you'd put your information in it and we'd mail them out. And it's almost like a petition, but here everything's on the computer and it's super easy. It only takes a few clicks and some information. I'm going to put a link. I'll put the link again if I still have it here. Paste nope, that's not it. Let me get that link again, but I'll post in 1 second. But it just takes a few clicks. Check it out. Here it is. So basically what this does is you're sending a letter to the governor saying, hey, governor, help pass this law that will make it such that if a person is found to have is eligible and receiving Social Security disability benefits, they are also deemed to have a total disability under the workers' compensation law. Don't make them prove it twice. It's not necessary. All right. So, and if you have questions about that, please chime on in. All right. Good afternoon. I have mediation in next week, but I'm not at MMI yet. I've been going through this process for a year and they've paid my medical, but never any cash. Am I in a good spot? My question about your spot is what state is your spot in? Because mediation is usually not a New York State thing. So it'd be difficult for me to answer the question, but do you have a lawyer? These are lawyer questions. Lawyer, talk to me. I got my med paid. What am I looking at for money? Jim is in California. Thank you, Jim. I have a cumulative trauma case for knees, L5 protrusion, shoulders, and hearing. Had partial replacement of the right knee using private insurance. I feel like this is a multi-parter. There he is. Employer laid me off 4 days after reporting and terminated me, that son of a bitch, about 30 days after. QME hasn't sent his report. That's the California IME, but has the newest MRI and X-ray reports. How hard will it be to prove work-related? You are a heavy equipment operator for over 30 years. It's not easy. Make sure you go over it with your doctor. And when you get that QME report or IME report, as we call it here in New York, go over with your doctor. Make sure that they understand what the other side's saying so they're a little more well-versed in how to oppose it. Adam. Hi, Rex. Thank you for your knowledge. You're welcome for my knowledge. I'm a bilateral leg injury. Your explanation was eye-opening. It may have saved me. LOL. Thank you for your knowledge. I'm willing. Listen, you're welcome, and I'm happy to help. I'm happy to help a bilateral leg injury or any injury for that matter. Benjamin Gonzalez, 15 months ago, I lost my... Fuck. Man, I hate hearing this. I lost my right arm above the elbow. 3 weeks ago, I reached MMI, but I didn't hear nothing from the employer. It's been little over 3 weeks. Is there something normal? Where'd you go, Benjamin? Where'd you go, Benjamin? Give me more. Benjamin, I hope you have a lawyer. Right arm above the elbow. I mean, I hope, man, is that the only injuries? Yeah, you should be seeing something. You should be seeing a pretty good amount of something. You should be seeing something. Do you have a lawyer? Have you gone over this with your lawyer? That's really my primary recommendation here. Depending on, I mean, if you're saying it's above the elbow, I mean, that's 100% of an arm. And I would hope that you could be classified with a permanent partial disability or permanent total disability, depending if there's other injuries from that accident as well. Man, talk to your lawyer. And if you need help finding a lawyer, you call me and whatever state you're in, I'll help you find a lawyer. 212-406-8989. Whew. Sorry, man. I did physical therapy. This is spaz again. And then injections, and then RFAs, then back fusion, and hernia in my stomach. We talked about you earlier. Spaz, man. 9 years ago. That's the 9 year ago. Yeah, you got it. That's you're ripe to have a lawyer discussion there as well. Leonardo won his workers' comp case in court. The judge said they have to pay you a lump sum and interest, and then they sent me to a doctor a few weeks ago for MMI. What now? They're probably looking to stop the bleeding. If you want it, and then they're on the hook to start paying you, maybe they're going to get you checked out and have their doctor say, "Okay, he's permanent. Let's start putting caps on things." So that's probably what's happening here, if I had to guess. Again, I don't know where you are. I don't know the status of your case. I don't know the rules, but that's probably what's happening. Adam says, as a patient, be ready to advocate for yourself always. 100%. 100%. 100%. I might print that out and hang it up in the office because, hold on a second, you're getting a gold star because that's a gold star type of thing I want to hear. That's what I want to hear, baby. Because we live in a society now, and we need to have like a little banner here that says Rex is going off on a tangent. Strap yourselves in. I call it the Amazon society. Why? Because we're so used to we're a bunch of lazy asses, and I'm included in this. And we're so used to getting what we want without having to get off our ass and do anything. Oh, I need a new, whatever. I can go on Amazon and click a few things, and like literally, there are times where it'll show up the same afternoon here in New York. Nobody gets off their ass anymore. And when it comes to, if we're going to court and I don't have medical, I'm going to call you up and say, hey, we have a hearing tomorrow or next week. We don't have up-to-date medical. Have you been to see your doctor? Yeah, I was at my doctor last week and the week before. Well, your doctor hasn't sent the medical in. Can you help us? Well, what do I even have you for if I got to call the doctor and ask him for medical records? Well, because it's your case. It's your case, and you're the one who stands to lose here. If you don't, I'm just calling and asking for help. Or, hey, I'm going for surgery next week. Great, go get your surgery. I hope it helps. I hope you feel better. Do me a favor, while you're in there, if you could just mention to whoever the hell you're talking to, because usually the doctor does come in before your surgery to go over your surgery with you. That's usually when they mark you up with a Sharpie and draw all over you. By the way, doc, can you make sure you send the operative report to my lawyer so they can make sure my money starts as soon as they possibly can? So I'm not sitting home, healing, laying in bed with no money. I'm going to need it to live. Just ask the doctor. That's all. Why do I have to do that? You should do that. We do that. We do it every time. We call them, we email them, we say, hey, send the operative report. But it doesn't hurt to help out. And the most important one that I see is hospital records. Some judges, most judges, and for very good reason, want to see a person's initial treatment records. Oh, I fell out of a ladder while trimming a tree, and they rushed me to the hospital, and I was there overnight. Where's the hospital record? Well, I, as your lawyer, will say, can you please help us get your hospital records, or do you have them at home? Why should I have to do that? Why did I hire you? Why? To help you. But it is very difficult for us to get hospital records. And I'm going to give you a true story about that. We had a case. This is years ago, but we had a case, and I had finished court. I was in Jamaica, Queens. I had a few hearings. I finished them up. We needed medical records from Jamaica Hospital. I had authorizations and HIPAA releases and every form that could ever be filled out to release medical records. And I said, I'm going to give this a shot. And I went to Jamaica Hospital and I said, I'm an attorney. I'm not working for, I am the attorney. It doesn't get more than me. I am the guy. And here's my authorization. And here's a HIPAA release. And here's a letter signed by my client. I want my client's records. I'm here now. And son of a bitch that I wasn't there for 2 hours and I walked out empty-handed. And I don't walk out empty-handed very easily. I am a pain in the ass when it comes to stuff like that. You can ask anybody who knows me that must have been something for me to walk out empty-handed. And I went down kicking and screaming, and I could not walk out of there with medical records. And that's me being there live in person with every document they could ever need. So it's difficult for us to send requests. There are many, many times we send requests and we get a notice back. No, we don't have them. Nope, you're not getting it. Nope, dude, it's tough. We need your help so we can help you. So you need to, as Adam says here, advocate for yourself. Be a player in your case. We don't work for you. We work with you, and we want to help you. But sometimes you got to help us help you. And advocate for yourself when you go see your doctor. Don't just take what anybody says. Get explanations. Get an understanding what's going on medically, legally, with your case, with everything, so that you know what you're doing. Great question. Great comment. Thank you. Good afternoon, Zach. Tigger. I like the white Tigger. You don't see that often. Can an employer fire someone for using the workers' comp insurance company? They shouldn't. I know here in New York State, if you are fired or otherwise discriminated against for filing for or participating in a workers' compensation case, you can file a comp discrimination action. It's okay. Everyone calls me Zach for some reason. It's all good. So yes, that's not proper. So if you are somehow here in New York, and I don't know the discrimination laws in other states, you cannot be discriminated against for filing for or participating in a workers' compensation case. Whew. Hi, Rex. What's the best, a demand letter or a settlement in workers' comp? Jeff, what's the best? It's better than all the rest. I don't know what your question is. What's the best, a demand letter or a settlement? I don't understand. Is it okay to get unemployment if there's no work for me at these holiday times after being released to full duty? Westside J, can you get unemployment? I don't practice unemployment. I've never done unemployment, but generally unemployment is payable if you're ready, willing, and able to return to work. If you've been released and you just can't find work, then your lost time is no longer compensable lost time here in New York State because you're able to work and now you're getting unemployment. So it kind of switches over, but you can't claim that as just keep in mind because you're not disabled from work. Workers' comp only pays you when you're disabled from work. Todd Morgan, the plant where he works was shut down. They're chirping out there. They got the link. You guys got the link? You got the link? They got the link. See? My staff is filling out those letters to Governor Hochul asking her to take some action here. The plant shut down, and I think we had something like 400-something signatures yesterday. We got 48 people on right now. That's 48 more signatures. That's 10%. We're boosting numbers here, baby. Let's show me that you guys have the power. 49 people. I don't know how many likes we've gotten. Ms. B usually does that homework for me. So Todd's plant where he got hurt shut down. Can I file for unemployment even though going through a workers' compensation case was approved and got denied and have a hearing in a week? It depends. It depends. Talk to your lawyer. Again, unemployment. If you're ready, willing, and able to work, but if you're claiming to be disabled from a workers' compensation injury, the two are not always compatible. Be careful what you're filling out. Make sure it's done. Make sure you're open and honest on all those kind of claim forms and things like that. Talk to your lawyer. Is it a New York case? That's really important to know. Spaz is in Kansas, and no, I didn't work at all. My weekly rate was $6.32, and yes, I have a lawyer. You got to call your lawyer. I know nothing about Kansas law. Rock Chalk Jayhawk is the extent of my Kansas knowledge, and you guys got some big deer. And I'm going to come out there and hunt some of them in the future. Cedric Hinson. I'm nearing MMI and impairment rating next week. Is it too late to lawyer up? No, absolutely not. That's actually a good time because you're probably going to need to start getting into a settlement negotiation potentially. Good time to have a lawyer who knows what they're doing. Lawyer up. Where are you located, Cedric Hinson? The one word throws me off. Cedric Hinson, but there's also like a rich in there. Rich Hinson. Call me, 212-406-8989. Saquon Johnson, what's up, Rex? I have a question. I got pain medication from a broken leg and ankle injury, and the insurance company stopped to reimburse me for the money I pay for the medication. What should I do? Where are you located? If this is a New York case and you were paying out of pocket, maybe you need to have the doctor put in a PAR request, get authorization for that medication, get them to pay for it directly, or use their pharmacy. So a lot of insurance companies will give you a card. I know the state fund does it here when you first have your accident, and they'll say that you can use a CVS pharmacy. Here's your card. You go in, swipe the card. They get the bill. You don't have to worry about it. You get your medications. Everybody's happy. So I have attended 2 times failed settlement conference over 4 years with 44% MMI. What is taking so long to get to court? I don't know. I don't know if you're talking about a New York workers' compensation case that also has a third party, because if you're going to settlement conferences and waiting for a court date, this sounds like you're talking about the third party aspect of the claim, or you're not in New York State and I will have no idea what you're talking about. But I'm assuming you have a lawyer, because if you did have settlement conferences, you probably had a lawyer help you at those settlement conferences. This is a great question for your lawyer. Hey, lawyer, what the hell's taking so long? Third party cases take a long time. It's a sad truth. That's just the way it is. Workers' comp is quicker, but the payouts are much, much less, as we know. Hey, Rex, will a cervical shot increase my overall settlement? So this is similar to the question about surgery, but not as severe, not as heavy. Having a cervical injection shows that there is a severe injury, severe enough to warrant a cervical injection, but a cervical injection is also meant to help you and improve your condition. So from a analytical perspective, it's kind of like a catch-22. Yeah, it shows that your injury is pretty bad, but yeah, it's supposed to make that bad injury much, much better because it's supposed to help you. Same as surgery. But generally speaking, it does show, it creates a benchmark of some level of severity of your injuries. So you should never do any type of treatment or surgery or injection for the potential of additional money in your case. You should do it because it's going to help you, and you should not do it if you're not into it and it's not going to help you. Don't do it because you think it's going to get you more money. That's always my advice. It's a shitty reason to have somebody stick a needle in your neck. I don't see not one question from this live chat. You don't see not one question? What the fuck? I'm posting them. Isn't this a Q&A? What are we talking about? I'm answering the questions. How do you know when MMI is near? I have a procedure coming up, RFA branch. If I'm not 100%, will the doctor send me back to work? I don't know what the doctor's going to do. How do you know when MMI is near? Well, to answer that question, because I am answering questions because this is a Q&A, I'm being called out on that. Generally, it's a year for schedulable injuries, 2 years for non-schedulable injuries, generally. But it's when your doctor determines that your treatment has run its course. There's no more treatment to help you to improve your condition. You have reached maximum medical improvement. The medicine, there's no more medicine out there, whether it's treatment or surgery or what, that's going to improve your condition. So the best way to judge when MMI is approaching on your particular case is to talk to your doctor. Doc, what are we looking at here? What am I expecting? Are we getting close to MMI? What do you think? Nothing wrong with having those questions, those conversations with your doctor. Anybody else want to yell at me for not answering questions, even though I'm answering questions? Forget about it. From Alaska, I love it. Hello. I'm currently getting workers' comp, and finally, after a year, I'm finally getting surgery. Could I settle if I don't want the surgery? I imagine you could. I don't know Alaskan law very well. But I'm sure there's an insurance company out there somewhere which would rather give you a little bit less money and close out your case and eliminate the potential of any further problems down the road or any further exposure down the road, because that's really what it comes down to. So I would talk to my lawyer about it. Otherwise, forget about it. Hey, Donnie, forget about it. Those peppers, forget about it. In Texas, can you cash out of your workers' compensation case when it's in the supplemental income stage? I don't know. And I had a very long discussion recently with a Texas attorney, friend of a friend. I had some questions about Texas law, and he used to do Texas workers' compensation. He doesn't anymore because he says that Texas is an absolute nightmare when it comes to workers' compensation. And him and many other attorneys have jumped ship and are doing other things because they didn't like how Texas was handling their workers' compensation cases. And we had a long discussion about it, and it was startling to say the least. So I don't know the answer to that question, but Frederick, do you have a lawyer, one of the few remaining attorneys in Texas that are still handling those cases? Again, I'm going to post a link to that campaign to send the letters in support of that bill. It's big. It's big. And, it might not directly affect you yet. It might at some point down the road, and you might not even know it yet, but it helps. It's going to help a lot of people out there. People that are getting Social Security that are still fighting to get their workers' compensation benefits and have to go and do a work search, even though the federal government says that they're totally disabled. It's huge. And Steph says, if you're enjoying the comment, don't forget to like and subscribe and stop yelling at me saying it's a Q&A, even though I'm Aing the Q's. Let's say you have a 30% loss of use to your ankle. Okay, let's say that. And you only worked physical labor jobs your whole life and you can't go back to your old job. How much would that typically increase your rating? Here in New York, it wouldn't. The 30% is 30%. A foot is worth 205 weeks of workers' compensation benefits. 30% of that, you would get 61.5 weeks of workers' compensation benefits payable at the total rate of compensation, regardless of whether or not you are an astrophysicist or street sweeper. You get 61.5 weeks of compensation payable to total rate based upon your average weekly wage. That's it, and that's that. That's how it works. Oh, we can delete that from yeah. So, moving right along here, I'm reaching my terminal velocity. So I'm going to get into a couple more questions, and I think we're going to call it. Hi, Rex. Is it James Tucker? Yo, James Tucker. And this is the other thing that we talked about. Not only is Texas an absolute nightmare, Ohio workers' compensation sucks too. That was the other thing he said. He said, you thought Texas is bad after we had this discussion? Wait till you check out Ohio. Yep, it's not cool. It's scary. And they have a whole set of different rules for farm employees. They can opt out. It's scary. And I feel for everybody. So just keep it in mind. What is the time frame to try to get a possible consequential added to a case? So the time limitations are much more relaxed. And again, I'm assuming we're talking about a New York case. There's no hard and fast time, but you want to do it as soon. You always want to do it as soon as possible. And the same goes for filing your claim initially. Do it as fast as you can. There's no reason to wait. And the number one reason that we hear all the time, and it just doesn't have any traction, is I thought I could work through it. I didn't want to hurt my company. I didn't want to hurt my boss. He's my friend. So I never filed my case, or I filed late. And no matter what, it looks bad. So file. If you think there's the second you think there's a consequential injury or disability or malady of some sort, go talk to your doctor. Let your lawyer know. Let them get the medical to support it and do it as fast as possible. Don't sit on it, because the longer you wait, the worse it looks. Take it seriously, and the judge will take you more seriously. Unemployment would be considered low wage pay, not as the error. I am an Uber driver with a workers' compensation case for my back, my neck, my hand, my knee, my ankle, my ear, my nose. I have an IME soon. What should I expect? How should I handle it? And how can it affect my case? The workers' comp accepted fault. So just because they accepted fault doesn't mean that you're not going to have an IME. You're going to have an IME to determine all the different injuries, the degree of disability, whether you need treatment, surgery. There's a lot of different factors here, and there's a lot of reasons why you would have an IME and why you might have more than one IME. What do you expect from an IME? I don't want to put you into a track that might disrupt how your lawyer wants to handle your case, because lawyers do things differently. You get questionnaires either in the mail when you get your IME appointment. Sometimes you get them the day when you show up. They give you a clipboard and tell you to fill out a questionnaire. Some lawyers will say, do not fill out that questionnaire. Some lawyers will say, fill it out, be careful. Some lawyers will say, I don't give a crap what you do. Fill it out and do your best. So I don't want to tell people what to do. I'm hesitant. I don't like offering and volunteering information, especially when it's information that they should have. But that being said, what should you expect? A lot of waiting, a quick examination, probably not a lot of talking, and you'll be on your way before the dust settles. Usually is what happens. But again, listen, I talk shit about there are very good doctors out there. There's very good IME doctors. They're very good consultants. They're doing their job. The insurance company attorneys are doing their job. The adjusters are doing their job. The judges, everyone's doing their job. And yes, there are bad apples, and there's bad apples everywhere. There's claimants attorneys that do what I do that are less than savory. And, and it's the same with anybody in any business, in any industry. And I'm not trying to make it seem as though every IME is out to get you and destroy you. And hopefully you have a good, easy exam, and they recognize the level of your disability and the need for your treatment. You get what you need, and you can move through your case seamlessly. And yeah, it is entertaining to discuss it. It's hard to say exactly what will happen, and it's hard for me to tell you what to expect. A, I don't know what state you're in, and B, every examination is different. I mean, are you going for a cardiac exam, or did you break your big toe? Don't know here. And I don't want to take you off the track that you and your lawyer have gone down. It's a great question to have for your lawyer, because your lawyer is probably going to know the purpose of that examination. Why is it? Are you going to determine if additional sites of injury are warranted? Treatment, surgery? Is it a psych IME? The lawyer probably knows who the consultant is and can give you a little insight as to what to expect. So it's a great question for your lawyer. It's a great question for me too. You got a lot out of me, more than I expected. Is the black swan like a common, I don't want to say emoji. I'm so bad with the terminology. Picture. So we got a couple followers with the black swan. Maybe it means something. I don't know. How to get an insurance company to respond to a settlement demand with an answer. God, if you could figure this one out, I'll settle your case for you. There are some insurance companies that just don't answer the MFing phone, that just don't respond to emails. And then all of a sudden, when they want to settle, it's like, please answer. You have 10 days to respond to this offer. Rah, 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 rah. It's like, you know what? You can kiss my... I've been asking you for 6 months to settle this case, and now all of a sudden I'm under a time constraint. You know what that means if you're Italian. But you got to keep on them. Persistence overcomes resistance, as my friend George always says. Just keep on them until you get an answer of some type. Otherwise, you push that case into court. Prepare yourself as best you can and get it in front of a judge. Hey, we did our best, judge. Here we are. Let's go for it. And that's what you got. Hi from Tennessee. Hi, Tennessee. And you are welcome, my friend. You had a great comment before. I'm giving you a lot of credit, even though you yelled at me for not Aing the cues. I don't like my doctor. I don't like your doctor either. I don't know who your freaking doctor is, but I don't like him either. Get a second opinion. Go see another doctor. Nothing wrong with that. This is America. Game World, US. I had a hearing December 2nd, but my lawyer was not there. What should I do? I can't modify my AWW, and they can't modify my... Call your lawyer. Find out what's going on. Request a new hearing. Listen, we get stuck. This morning, I had a problem. My train was delayed coming into the city, and I was late for my first hearing. Some judges are cool about it, and he recalled the case, and we got through it without any problem. Sometimes you get slammed, and you got to take the beating. Such is life. Such is life. All right, winding it up here. Kat, no Miss B. I am announcing an all points bulletin. Ms. B, I don't have, nobody's, cheering for me today. I'm getting yelled at to answer questions that it's a Q&A. You're not going to be not answering the questions. And Miss B is not here she got my back. My sister. What happened? I lost something here. What about Illinois workers' comp versus FMLA? FMLA is federal. Illinois, if you have questions about Illinois workers' comp, we do know some attorneys over there. I can get you some answers. What if you're over 70% or higher permanent? No. So I know there are some laws that say if you have a 70% or greater permanent partial disability, you're bumped into the total. Not in New York. You got to be total to be total. I mean, if you look at the PPD caps, and you have to excuse the 87-year-old coffee stains on this disgusting thing, but if you look, the top one, 95. There's a cap if you have 95% permanent partial disability. Here you go, Instagram. It's gross. If you have a 95% permanent partial disability, you're still capped off. You get 525 weeks of compensation, 10.1 years. If you are 95% disabled, 90 effing 5% disabled, 95% disabled, you get 10 years of benefits, and that's it. You can apply for reconsideration and hardship in the final year. And yes, there's certain things there. But let's think about that. 95%. What if you are 35 years old and you were working as a construction worker, and I don't want to say construction worker, whatever you were doing, and you've become 95% disabled? You're not doing anything with yourself for the rest of your life. I mean, there was a doctor that Dr. Cologne, who makes me laugh whenever I speak to him, but they would ask this question on depositions of him, and they would say, "Are you saying there's nothing that this person can do?" And his response was, he could read the Bible to blind people. And it was just that's what pops into my mind. What the hell is a person with 95% disability going to do? But a 35-year-old is only going to get benefits till he's 45 years old. You have a whole life ahead of you. I'm fucking 46 years old. And I think about that. It's like, it's crazy. Which is why we need to get this bill enacted, because a 95% workers' comp disability, there's a very strong chance that person gets Social Security disability, and then you don't got to fight that fight anymore. They're total. You get total. Done. Thank you. You have enough to deal with a 95% disability. Probably going to the bathroom in the morning. You're going to worry about this as well? Let's let people like that get the benefits that they're entitled to. Seriously. Now I'm angry. If my employer refused to give me a light duty job, can I lose my benefits? A lot of moving parts here. Probably not, but a lot of moving parts. I would need to. That's a sit down discussion with your lawyer type question. So it's very possible. To rephrase my question, Trailer Park Boys, how does that typically add to your settlement in regards to wage earning capacity being affected? Where was your initial question, Mr. Park Boys? I don't see it. I have to sneeze. I have teeth that need to be replaced related to an injury, so it seems hard to get treatment. Yes, dental. We were talking about Sean Donnelly before. I think Sean knows a dentist. Dental, very tough to find. Eye doctors that take workers' comp. I literally have the people who've been following me for some time here know that last November, I had to go for eye surgery for a retinal issue. And I'm literally sitting there in the doctor's office preparing for essentially emergency eye surgery. And I'm like, hey, by the way, do you guys take New York workers' comp here? I got some clients. We can't find a freaking eye doctor that's going to see people. So yeah, the specialties are tough. Dentists, eye doctors, cardiologists, pulmonologists, ear, nose, and throat. They're tough to find. Dentists, very tough. Love you too. Thank you. This sneeze is knocking on the door and just won't come out. Drive me crazy. I have my right hand nerve damage, but the doctor, he gave me injection and it doesn't work even. Okay. That's true. We have to formulate our questions in a way that I can work with them. But I'm sorry. The workers board said that I didn't tell my orthopedic about my pre-existing injury. I told both my orthopedics and my family doctor and the IME and my attorney and the judge. They denied 4 times. When you have a pre-existing condition, especially one that's the same body part, something that's really important to know, you gotta hammer it home. You got to make sure it's in your initial claim form. Here in New York on the C3, which is your claim form, there's a question at the bottom of the form that specifically asks you, have you ever had a accident or injury or disability of the same or similar body parts, so on and so forth. You got to make sure you answer that in the affirmative. If you're seeing your doctors, write it down on your intake questionnaires. Write it down when you go see the IME. Make sure it's there. You don't want to be acute because listen, sometimes it comes down to a he said, she said, and it can hurt you. Rex from Texas. I've been dealing with workers' comp since October of 23. Still fighting with me and my lawyer. I love watching you and helping us out with certain questions that we have. My pleasure. And after the knowledge I've received about Texas, I support you and I feel bad and I hope you can get through this. King Key. Wow. I never actually looked at your name and I cannot figure all that out. Melanin Kiko Ingo King. Go. I have a 4% whole body after my doctor said I have a 10%. Who do I believe? My doctor, the workers' compensation rating. Please forgive me if my question is confusing. It sounds like did you tell me before that you're not in New York State? Ohio. Yeah, we do it a little different here. Who said you're the 4? This is a lawyer question. This is call my lawyer and sit down and ask him which way to go here. Maybe it's settlement time for you as well. Folks, I think we started at 3:30. It's 4:41. I start to get like an dry, itchy in the throat from talking this long. And I'd love to keep going forever. Because a lot of great questions. And I hope you guys enjoyed my Q&A, even though I might not have ate all the Q's. But thank you. Here is the link again. I will try to post it in a comment or two to a few videos. Cy and Steph, if maybe we could do that, post it to what's happening out there? Catherine's being loud. If we could post it in the comments of some of the next few videos, maybe people can click on it and fill it out. It's super easy. They want I think your name and your phone number and some information. And it basically fills out the letter. It's saying, hey, Governor, help. Let's help people that need help. It's a good thing. And we want to try to do the best we can to help everybody. And again, the bill it's a bill to change the law a little bit in New York State so that a person who's receiving Social Security disability benefits, who's already been deemed disabled by the federal government, will also be, there will be reciprocity, that they will be found to have a total disability here in New York State as well. Folks, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your support. We got the holidays approaching. It's Christmas party season here in the lawyer world. We go around to different Christmas parties doing the same thing, talking to the same people, having the same discussions, drinking different things. But next week is a week of a week. Next week, Thursday. I'm going to see you Thursday at 4 p.m. for a live. Oh, no. Bad idea. Bad idea. We're going to do next Wednesday. How about that? Catch me outside. Next Wednesday, December 10th. I have a hearing at 3. Let's shoot for 3:30. Maybe let's shoot for 4 o'clock. We're going to do 4 o'clock, 4 to 5. 4 to 5, YouTube Live, 4 to 5. Lock it in. If anybody knows Ms. B or that you live down the block, knock on the door and tell her next week Wednesday. Steph, Wednesday. Wednesday. Thank you. Wednesday at 4. Guys, I hope you had a great holiday. 'Tis the season to be safe. And as always, if you have any questions, please give me a call. 212-406-8989. Have a wonderful rest of your week. I will see you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.